Hamate on rye. That's pretty creative. I like that. Dobby, I guess we got a Harry Potter fan out there. I know who Dobby is.
His name is Adobe.
I like Hamate on rye. I like that. That's so cheesy. I can't stop laughing at it. All right, give you about another minute to join in here. We'll get started. And do remember, if there's pictures, if you click on it, it'll zoom that picture up. I'll also zoom it up on my screen so you can see it as well, because there are a few pictures on this for you to look at.
Is it going to be like last time, 5 seconds to answer a question?
I was a little more merciful and gave you 20 seconds this time. I took the critiques and criticism to heart. You know, I showed some mercy. All right, let's get going here, guys. Let's see how you do. All right, the anatomical landmark found directly between the lesser and greater tubercle is that's going to be the intertubular groove. Intertubular. All right. Oh, good. Majority of you got that. Very nice. What joint is found closest to the sternum? It's going to be the SC joint. Stands for sternoclavicular joint. There's your clue right there. Clavicular. That'll be the closest one to the sternum. Very good. The most lateral end of the clavicle is it's going to be the acromial end. The acromial end. That is the most lateral section of that clavicle. Very good. Just make note, scapular end and humeral end do not exist. I made those up. We do have an acromial end and we do have a sternal end. E is referring to what anatomy? E. That'll be the AC joints. AC joints. Do remember on that, guys, and I'm working on the formatting to make this a little easier to read on Monday. I will still label if I'm looking for a joint or a landmark. And I am working to make that a lot more easier to read on Nearpod for you guys, so it should be a little more pleasant to look at on Monday. G is referring to what? It's going to be the lateral border of the scapula. Lateral scapula. Very good. Very good. The landmark where the humeral head fits into the scapula is that's the glenoid fossa. The glenoid fossa. To make sure you know the landmark is glenoid fossa, the joint would be the scapulohumeral joint. The most inferior aspect of the scapula is it's going to be the inferior angle. Inferior angle. B is referring to what? It's going to be the coracoid process. You know I have to throw a coracoid in there at least once. You can all guarantee there'll be something to do with a coracoid test. I'm just saying. An alternative view that can be performed instead of a Y shot to look for dislocation is it's going to be the infero-superior axial view. Also goes by another name. Does anybody remember what the alternative name to that view is? Because you will probably see that as well. Infero-superior axial. Does anybody remember? It's a person's name. Starts with an L.
Lawrence.
Is
the Lawrence method?
The Lawrence method. Thank you. The Lawrence method. That's a very good question to put a star on, guys, because that's a great registry question. It's the kind of stuff the registry likes to throw at you. Alternative views. So an alternative to that Y shot for dislocation, infero-superior axial view or Lawrence method. What kind of joint is the AC joint classified as? It's going to be a plane joint. Remember like the wings of a plane? Think of your clavicles, they look like an airplane. It's a plane joint. All gliding joints. Do remember, for ball and socket, that's going to be the humeral, and the scapulohumeral joints. The AC and SC joints are both plane or gliding joints. It's the only two joint types we've talked about this chapter. What must be in profile for an internal rotation shoulder? It's going to be be the lesser tubercle. Lesser tubercle for internal, greater tubercle for external. Ooh, hamate on rye, moving on up. So lesser tubercle, be careful on those guys. Look at what must be in profile for that external versus internal shoulder. Very easy concept to mix up, but very important questions to make sure that we focus on. It's another great thing the registry can throw at you right there. Be able to tell on an x-ray as well what those look like. Evaluation criteria for an external rotation shoulder includes what? It's going to be the epicondylus parallel. How do we achieve the epicondylus to be parallel? We supinate the hand or stick the arm straight out in front of us in an AP position. That epicondylus being in the parallel plane in reference to our IR. Epicondylus parallel. Name the projection. That's a neutral projection, guys. If you look on my screen, why is that neutral? Well, for an external, we would want that greater tubercle to be very prominently demonstrated in lateral aspect. For internal, we'd want the lesser tubercle, which is the B here, to be very prominent on the medial aspect. But neither is prominent. And also, the intertubular groove has completely disappeared. Therefore, this is a neutral rotation shoulder. Another clue, if you look for that little line, that's that intertubular groove. If the intertubular groove is on the lateral side of the humerus, it's an external rotation. If the intertubular groove is on the medial side of the humerus, it's an internal rotation. So two different pieces of anatomy we can look at to to determine which direction that arm is turned in. So yeah, so only two of you got that. I threw that in there for a reason because that's something that people really mix up a lot. So do a comparison view, guys, of external, internal, and neutral. Make sure you can identify a difference. Focus on the tubercles and the intertubular groove on those x-rays. It's the easiest way to figure out which rotation we're looking at on those x-rays. What cassette size is needed for an AP humerus? Okay, that's going to be a 14 by 17 cassette, lengthwise to be specific. I threw that question on purpose. Make sure you study your cassette sizes and their orientation. You will see some questions on that. Cassette size and orientation. The CR for an AP shoulder x-ray enters where? That's going to be 1 inch inferior to the coracoid. 1 inch inferior to the coracoid. And that goes for every type of shoulder, by the way, whether external, internal, or neutral rotation. They're all 1 inch below the coracoid. AP shoulder. If a patient cannot move their humerus due to severe fracture, what exam should be performed? That is going to be the transthoracic lateral humerus, which we shoot through the torso because the patient cannot move the arm. Now, obviously, it would not be external because we can't turn the hand if it's fractured. But also keep in mind that the Lawrence and the Y-shot are both done for dislocation specifically. Lawrence and Y-shot are dislocation. Transthoracic lateral is if the humerus is fractured and the patient cannot move their arm, so we shoot through the chest cavity to get it in a true lateral. The KV range for a shoulder x-ray is that is going to be 70 to 75. So I threw that in there as well. Make sure you look at those KV ranges, average where they should be. It's going to be 70 to 75 analog. It does change slightly for digital, 75 to 80 for digital. What degree of obliquity would be acceptable for a Grashy method x-ray? Sorry, guys. So Jonathan back in first. That is going to be 45 degrees, correct? 45 degrees for a Grashy method x-ray. Do pay attention to those degrees of obliquity on all the different kind of obliques we've went over, because if you notice, especially today, those do vary depending on exam, especially when it comes to scapula. Be very careful on those. You will see some of those questions. The following x-ray shows a non-dislocated humerus. True or false? That is going to be a dislocated humerus. So that would be a false. That is dislocated. It's out of socket. So over here is completely out of socket. That is a dislocated humerus. And last but not least, for closed AC joints, what should be done? Now, obviously, the answer is the patient should be standing on their head upside down. I mean, that's the ideal gold standard for that x-ray, I would say. Oh, no one chose that as an answer? Oh, now, be careful here, guys. Be very careful. Look at the wording. For closed AC joints, what should be done? It can be a very tricky thing, very tricky question. For closed, we want them without weights. For open, we're going to add the weights to open up the joint space.
Oh, so
That's
how
a
to
good one to
close
put a
them
star
up.
on right there. Make sure you know that. Very simple question, but very tricky at the same time. All right. So in third place, we have the hamate on right. I just got to know whose name is that. That's very creative. Hamate on right. I like that. I like that. MV was in second, and Jonathan Negri was in first. Very good. Very good. Okay, guys, so for this exam here, this little practice test, I will send you a link for it so you can practice it as many times as you want at your own pace. Some great practice questions. As far as the test on Monday, so that's the image review. What I suggest you study is the worksheet I sent you with all those images and the images in your PowerPoints. That's the ones I would focus on. That's the stuff I'm going to ask you as far as anatomy. Of course, anything's fair game. It will be a total of 4 images. 2 on the first round, 2 on the second round, the same as last time. I did hear your critiques about it being hard to read of the instructions. I am working on that to make it much clearer. I do have some ideas if I can't get to work on Nearpod, but my word to you is for Monday, I'll make sure that's very clear to read so you know exactly what it is I'm looking for on that test. As far as Wednesday, of course, it's going to cover everything in the chapter. Make sure you look at your x-rays, your positions, kV ranges, cassette sizes, obliquities. Look at the models, the actual cartoon models as well, because all that can be asked as far as anatomy is concerned as well. Not as much anatomy as the first chapter, but still quite a bit. And do keep in mind, guys, on that subject, look at your elbow anatomy, because where's the elbow? It's also on the humerus. So all that anatomy we just went over can show up on a humerus x-ray as well. So make sure that you're sharp on that. The trochlea, capitulum, medial lateral epicondyles, all that wonderful stuff that can also be asked. Anytime there's overlap of anatomy, it's always fair game once we've went over it in class. Always keep that in mind. Are there any questions for Monday's test or Wednesday's tests? Any questions at all? Well, study hard, guys. You have the whole weekend to study. Use your time well. Do not wait till Sunday to start studying. That'd be a bad idea. Do a little bit tonight, a little bit tomorrow, a little bit Sunday, and pace yourself. Otherwise, you're going to burn yourself out and be overwhelmed. Don't ever procrastinate and wait till the last minute. As always, guys, if you need more help, please let me know. Call me, text me,